We're in Oakland.
Yeah.
We are in Oakland, California. I'm here with Chef Katy Osuna, right?
Yeah.
Of Copper and Heat Podcast. What is up, Chef?
Hey, how's it going?
We finally have another podcast on the show. This is historic right here.
Really?
By the way, yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
as your podcast grows and my podcast grows, and then 10 years from now, when all that exists is podcast, we will be on top, and all of you losers will be down beneath. No, I'm just kidding. Well, this is all an inclusive thing. This is an all-inclusive thing. We're not shutting down any
Putting it out in the
podcasts over here.
universe, though.
Yeah,
We're just gonna be taking
these are going to
over.
be amazing podcasts.
Yeah.
So first of all, what even made you want to do a podcast?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see here. Going back. So, for school, I wanted to do anthropology and journalism. So that's kind of where all of this started.
Okay.
So I got my bachelor's in anthropology and journalism and was really interested in food always. And so was working in kitchens in college, you know, making some money, all
Doing
that
the
kind
thing.
of stuff, doing the thing that people do. Should I put those on too?
No, it's all good. If you want to listen to yourself.
I don't want to listen
Yeah,
to myself.
exactly.
I do that all the time. So I was doing that and decided I wanted to do more culinary stuff. So came down here to California, moved from Boise, Idaho, and started working in kitchens and ended up at Manresa, 3 Michelin star place. So going from Idaho, working at like gastropubs in Idaho, to 3 Michelin star place in the Bay Area
Right.
was just a whole other world. And it was just really interesting, obviously incredibly stressful.
Did you love it at the time? Did you love every minute of it? Or were you
It was mixed
questioning?
emotions. Mixed emotions. I think I loved a lot about it. I'm going to say what everybody always says. Like, I loved the camaraderie. I loved all the people that I worked with. It was incredible. I loved the adrenaline rush. Like, that's just how my brain works, is like being in the shits during service. And so I loved that part of it.
Right.
But like, definitely had a hard time winding down at night, and then just like the amount of anxiety that I had going into every day was just astronomical. So I
Yeah.
was just like, what if I fuck something up? And that was just like all that I thought about. So I was like thinking about those kinds of things, and then I was also, since it was just like a whole other world than what I was used to, I was thinking about a lot of the different social interactions at play, and a lot of like, I don't know, just working in a restaurant at that level and noticing all these, just social and cultural things that were happening
Right.
that I was completely unaware of. Started me thinking about a lot of like, why do we do it this way? And like,
Yeah.
why? Yeah.
You start questioning.
Yeah, a lot. And like,
When as a cook, if you
Yeah.
question, you're like, shut up and just
Exactly.
do it this way.
this is what I say.
'Cause,
Okay, yes, chef.
Exactly.
I love how everybody's like into the yes chef thing now because of the bear.
Yeah, right? But I mean,
Yes,
I'm
chef.
happy that we can use the word again, because for a long time it was like, don't call me chef movement. And they were like trying to stigmatize the word. And I'm like, you know, doctors don't go around being like, don't call me doctor. And I feel like after a certain bit, you've earned the title. It's yours
Yeah.
forever. Like, you have been a chef. You're a chef. I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck what you say. Like anybody says.
Yeah.
You know, I think minimum 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
10 years in like a management role, I think, you know, qualifies you.
Yeah.
And then there's certain people that only refer to you by that, like that to them. You're like, oh, you're Chef David or you're Chef Katy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have any people that you've mentored in your career that are still around in your life that you talk to, that you still mentor? Or did you sort of step away from that as you started doing the podcast?
I don't know that I necessarily stepped away from it. I don't know about mentoring even, because I don't know that I left Manresa before I like really had any leadership position, but then I ended up going and managing at other places, and I don't know that I would call myself a mentor of the people that I worked with there, but I still keep in touch with them, and
Right.
I like
That's important.
They're great, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I would call like myself a mentor to them, but
Yeah.
and it wasn't. I worked at Belcampo. I'll just
Okay.
say. It's a whole other can of worms, but
Right.
yeah. So I still keep in touch with a lot of folks that like I worked with.
Yeah. Awesome. How long did you work at Manresa?
I was there 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, I was only at Manresa for a couple years, and then other restaurants before and after that.
Heard that. But, so you were born in Idaho?
I was born in California, in San Diego.
Born in California.
Grew up my entire life in Idaho. So
really? Okay.
In Idaho.
Why did you move from California to Idaho, or your family? Why did you?
My dad was a cop in San Diego, and he was like, I don't want to be a cop anymore, and it's too dangerous, so we're going to move to Idaho where his family was.
Was he a cop up there?
No,
he left. I mean, he could have been a cop up there. It's pretty boring.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sure it would have been. Yeah, but no, he didn't want to do it anymore.
Gotcha. So he got out of it.
He did other stuff, but yeah. So
what was eating like growing up in Idaho?
Eating?
Yeah, like what did your mom cook, dad cook?
So
is it frozen dinners?
Yeah, a lot of like going out. Both of my parents worked.
Okay.
Well, my mom, she stayed home with us for the first few years, but then she went back to work. Actually, at the school that we went to.
Was that hard? Having your mom be a teacher at the school that you went to?
She was like, so it was a Catholic school. I went through Catholic school, both elementary and high school. So she was actually like the development director. She raised money for the school, and she helped start the school. So it was a whole thing. Could you
get away with
hard.
shit? So you're like,
I was a goody two shoes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am a rule follower. I'm not gonna fuck with anything. My brother, I think, had a harder time because he had a harder time with rules. So I was fine. But I think we did get preferential treatment because we were like friends with all the teachers because we were always at the school hanging out. But
and I mean, when your mom pays your salary, you're like, don't fuck with her daughter, because you're not going to get any money for the math books you need.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that your mom is like being out there being like, you better give my kid good grades.
Oh, no.
Or else I'm going to fuck with your budget.
I don't think she would have, but maybe.
No, I don't think she would. Your dad was a cop. Come on.
He was the scary
one. It's a well-to-do family.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but yeah. So like there wasn't a lot of everyday cooking. It was like we went out a lot, and there was a lot of like frozen stuff. I was incredibly picky. I would only eat like Blue Box mac and cheese.
Really?
And, my brother only ate fish sticks. Yeah, we were like really picky kids.
Heard that.
Yeah. It wasn't until later that I wanted to learn more about cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did you live in Idaho until you moved to Manresa to go work at Manresa?
So it was after I graduated college. So I was in
Idaho
my entire life.
Heard that.
Yeah.
What was your first job there in Idaho?
First job, I was a lifeguard.
Oh, okay.
Because I was,
I don't think swimming when I think Idaho.
I mean, it was a water park, so.
Oh, okay, got you.
But also North Idaho has a lot of lakes. Schlitterbahn?
Yeah, that's like biggest. That's the biggest water park in the United States.
I've never heard
it's in
of
Texas.
This place.
You watch those top 10 on Discovery Channel, like top 10 water parks in the USA, and number 1 was always Schlitterbahn.
I have never heard of this place.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow, no, the one that I worked at was. It was like pretty janky. It was at the point where like. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was either a front for something, or it was like doing really poorly because it was just a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds working there. And I'm like, why would you trust a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds to like save people's lives?
Yeah.
Water park. It was bad. It was really bad. I only did that for one summer when I was 15.
Got it.
Yeah, freshman year.
Is it still open, that place?
No.
No, closed down?
It tanked a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about water parks being that you work there? Would you go to one today?
They're so gross.
They are really gross, aren't they?
They're really gross.
Yeah, I thought about that the other day. I'm like, everyone's peeing in there.
It's gross. And like just a bunch of little kids running around and doing stuff. And just, again, 14, 15-year-olds like in the kitchen. So I was a lifeguard, but then there were a bunch of just young kids in the kitchen doing stupid shit to the food.
Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah.
So what was your second job? What did you do after that?
And then I started working in like plant nurseries and landscaping.
Okay.
So that I did the rest of my high school years. It's because I was just really interested in plants. And so that's how I ended up getting interested in food. Was like I wanted to, instead of growing random landscaping plants and like working for rich people to build their yards, I was like, what if I learned about growing and cooking food instead?
Okay.
So, but started out just trimming a bunch of plants and watering trees.
Mm-hmm. So what was your first restaurant job?
My first restaurant job was at a place called Brewphoria in
Brewphoria
in Boise.
Okay.
And like it was like one of the first places in Idaho. This will tell you how like far behind the times Idaho is. It was like they got a lot of craft beer from places. So they had like a big case that had all the fancy craft beers, and they were really into beer. That was the first time I started like actually liking beer. And they were doing like really innovative things for Idaho because they had like soft shell crab on the menu and stuff. And people were like, what the fuck is this? And I think they were open for a few years, and then they ended up shifting to just a burger place because they just like couldn't get enough people to come. And then they ended up closing. And that was in 2013, 2012, something like that.
2013, 2012. Okay.
But I started working on farms before I worked in restaurants.
Okay. So you were working in farms, getting to the restaurant. Did you want to leave the farm life behind? Is that why you sort of went to the restaurant? Or did you just want to see another side of the food?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to learn everything about food.
Okay. Was there anybody around you peer-wise that was interested in the same thing, or was it all just a job to other people at that restaurant?
At that restaurant, no. People cared. Genuinely interested
they were like,
in food.
Okay, got you.
And like,
so it was
really
a good culture.
Me. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. And that was like, it was my first job. I had lived the summer between my junior and senior year of college. I went and lived in Italy and learned how to make cheese. And
dope. Who taught you how to make cheese?
I lived on a farm in southern Italy.
Yeah. What was that experience like? Like, who was the person at the farm? Like, who took care of you?
His name was Giuseppe.
Was he like no nonsense? Like,
his last name? I can't remember his last name.
Fucking stand there and watch me make this damn cheese.
Yeah, and like I didn't get to make as much cheese. I mean, I like helped with the process because it was like a big farm, and they'd been around the family had been there for generations. They'd been there for thousands of years on this specific land in southern Italy. And
what was the life like, the culture shock? Like, you live in Idaho and then you go over there, like.
Yeah, I mean, it was tiny town, like a few thousand people, tiny town in Calabria. So nothing like people when they think of like Rome or Tuscany or whatever. It's like, it wasn't like that. It was a small farming town. Nobody spoke English, and they spoke a different dialect altogether. It wasn't even Italian.
Okay.
So I knew a little bit of Italian, enough to get around. And then they would speak in Italian to me, but otherwise they were speaking a completely other language.
Wow.
So it was a culture shock for sure. And I lived there for the summer, and just did like odd jobs around there. And they ended up, I ended up like acting as a tour guide to some American kids that would like come during the summer on some like American trip things. Anyway, so it was very interesting. But cool. Just the whole culture of Italy was fascinating.
And how did you find this internship or thing?
Yeah, it was Woof Worldwide.
Oh, okay, got you. You went woofing. Okay, heard that.
Yes.
Was that the only farm you woofed?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
for the experience, just like, let me do this and kind of.
Yeah, because for my anthropology degree, I did my thesis on comparing cheese making in Idaho versus Calabria. And so I worked on a farm in Idaho. And
who's better at making cheese? Who's got it?
I am not going to say that.
Come on,
They're very different.
Chef, just say it right now. I know you think it, but I know you know. Okay, that's okay.
The laws in the U.S. versus Italy are so interesting because they were making like all raw milk cheeses, but you can't do that here in the U.S. So the cheese over there was better. It tasted better, but that wasn't Karen. Karen was the one.
It was because of the government.
It was because of the government.
Okay, heard that. So now I know basically what pasteurization is, but since you've worked on these farms, you've probably seen it firsthand. Is it like an urn? Is it like look like a wine barrel or a wine thing? Stainless steel? Like, how are they bringing it up to temperature? Induction?
Yeah, giant, not induction. So there are these huge like gallons and hundreds of gallons of milk into these giant tanks.
Yeah.
And they're heated through like a water circulation system.
Oh, okay.
So and then it just has to get up to, don't remember the times, but it's like 165 degrees for
15 seconds, right?
I think so. And then there's a lower pasteurization, and I think it's like 150 for 30 minutes or something like that. Don't quote me on those because I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's okay.
But, yeah. So yeah, that was that.
That's
It was
crazy.
interesting.
So there's just milk everywhere?
Milk everywhere, way
Fucking-
everywhere.
Oh. But you had those, you like spray it down or whatever. My mom worked at this huge bakery with like one Sunday they would just close and
Yeah.
spray everything down. And do
I mean,
all
that
shit.
was one of my jobs, was just helping scrub everything. Walls, floors, all the tanks, everything. I mean, you know,
Gotcha.
learning the process.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of shit that goes along with that.
Yeah.
So you started working at this restaurant. Do you want to move to another restaurant after that, or like where are you at in your learning process?
Yeah, so I worked, and like I bounced kind of all over the place because I did that restaurant for a year, but then at the same time I got an internship at a nonprofit that did like food service job training for people who had various barriers to employment. So it started out with like refugees who barely spoke English because Boise's a huge refugee resettlement city.
Is it?
Yeah, right? Nobody knows that, but it's like one of the biggest cities for refugee
So
resettlement.
is your ethnic restaurant fucking bomb out there or what? Are you like,
That's the thing. There are like a lot of different really interesting restaurants, like a lot of Eritrean and Ethiopian food.
right?
That was the biggest, at least when I was there, like the biggest population that was coming over. But various places in Africa were some of the biggest ones. But then also like Cambodia and Nepal.
Can we see,
Colombia.
do you think we can see an emergence of a food like city over there in the future?
I'm really hoping
Like-
so. The thing with Boise is that it's like there are a lot of folks coming in like refugees, but it's still a really white city.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money going in there right now, like conservatives moving from Texas, California, the bigger cities that are like, ooh, it's too liberal over here for me. I'm going to move to somewhere like Idaho. So a lot of money and a lot
You
of
can't
stuff
move
coming in that
nowhere
way.
now, baby.
Well, no, it's fucking astronomical
Yeah.
there because we were thinking about moving there instead of Portland, but then we're like, well, we can't afford it in Boise either.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't know what's gonna happen to Boise food. I really hope that they really like foster that,
Yeah.
like those different kind of ethnic foods. But I don't know how much they will. But one of their best restaurants is called Sunshine Spice Cafe, and they actually got nominated, or they were semifinalists, I think, for a James Beard this year.
Whoa.
Which was really exciting. They're a bakery, and their pastries are so good.
Okay.
So anyway,
Okay. I love
and
me
it's
some
Afghani.
pastries.
So anyway,
Ooh,
Boise.
that's
I
gotta be
think
good.
I think it'll get there. Anyway, so I worked at that nonprofit for a couple of years, doing some of their events. I did like their food safety and HACCP plan stuff, and
Oh,
I
really?
did some training. So I kind of like.
That's great.
Did
You had
all
a
sorts of stuff like that.
well-rounded background.
Like I said, I jumped all over.
Literally
the
did
place.
everything, yeah. From farm to table over here. So where did you go from there? What's your trajectory after that?
So that's when I was doing some of these like events for the nonprofit and decided I wanted to go to culinary school because I like school because
Right.
I'm a nerd like that.
Okay. What culinary school did you go to?
I went to ICC, International Culinary Center,
Okay.
which is no longer.
Yeah, what happened there? Some
I don't
fraud
know.
or some shit?
I
Were
don't
they
know.
part of that, like Cordon Bleu owed a bunch of people money?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, okay.
I think they closed the California campus, which is where I went first, and then they closed the New York one.
Where
I
was the
think it
campus
just
here?
Financial. It was in Campbell, so way
Weird.
south. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess it makes sense. You lived in Idaho. Like, you're not going to move to San Francisco, like, right off the bat. Okay, so
Yeah.
you go live in Campbell. You're at the ICC.
At the ICC, did that because they do like the 6 month or 9 month
Okay.
like rapid program kind of thing. Did my externship at Plumed Horse down in Saratoga for a couple months, and the entire time I had like looked up, okay, what are the best restaurants in the South Bay to go work at, and Manresa was the first one that came up, and I'm like, I think it was right after Mind of a Chef came out where Chef Kinch was on it, and I was like, I'm gonna go work there.
Okay.
And so when I was still in school, I did a stage there. It was one day over the weekend. They were like, we want to see if you actually do want to come and work here. And I walked in and it was like dead silent and everybody was doing their thing. And I was just like, oh, fuck, this is not what I was expecting. But I kind of liked how quiet it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I ended up. I had to finish school and then I started my stage there after I graduated.
Were you terrified?
Yes.
Okay.
Constantly.
Got you. How did you deal with that fear?
I didn't. I think that was the problem. It was just like I guess I dealt with it, but it's just like I'm just keep moving forward, just keep doing what I do, and like if I fuck up, I fuck up, and just forget about it.
Gotcha. But 2 years is a while.
2 years, yeah. So did the 3-month stage, worked front of house for a month because they didn't have a job at that time, but then somebody quit, and then I could go back in the kitchen.
Dope. So you went back in the kitchen. What stations did you end up working?
I worked in Muse, and then I did like, they call it fish veg. It's kind of garde manger, I guess, like cold. And then the garden station, because there's the one dish that is the vegetable garden, and it changes all the time. And it's always just like whatever fresh stuff is coming out of their garden.
Got you. And is that just mainly, I've eaten there before, I don't really remember that course. Is it like a crudité, basically?
No, it changes all the time. So like when I was there, when I worked garden, I think it went through 2 or 3 iterations where it was like, at one point it was some shishito peppers with goat cheese that we made in-house. And then it was always just a bunch of herbs and flowers that came out of the garden. So no matter what the base was, it was always covered in all this herbage and
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then I think we did like grilled little gem with some velouté for another base, and then covered in all the flowers and herbs and stuff. Yeah, so it was always like a different base, but then covered in other goodies.
Flowers. Heard that.
And then that was always the fermentation station where you were like playing around with different ferments and pickling and stuff too.
Were you asked to make any cheeses, dairy there because you had the experience?
Yeah, so that was the goat cheese that was on the shishito garden was something that came about once I told them that I knew how to make cheese.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then so Chef Mitch, he also just let me kind of experiment with some different cheese things. So I did make a couple different experiments. I did like a Spanish style smoked, I think I did goat cheese. That was more aged, so he got me like a little refrigerator that did like the whole humidity and temperature control thing, so that I could like test some different things out. And I honestly left before that one was done, so it was like in the fridge. I have no idea what they did with it. I hope they like cut into it and did something with it.
Yeah,
but,
they probably did. Definitely did.
I got to play a little bit, which is fun.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And during that time, what would you say was the hardest, most challenging dish that you had to do, to make, process? Anything that was like, gave you that anxiety when you woke up? You're like, I need to make this today. I'm going to throw up.
I don't know that there was anything that was like particularly...
Would you describe the food there as like molecular or a little less than that?
No, because there wasn't a lot of it. It was all, I don't want to say simple, because simple's not like, it wasn't simple in a bad way. It was just, it wasn't super like doing all sorts of molecular gastronomy kinds of stuff. I think the most wild it got was like we did some foams sometimes, or we did
use some Ultratex and some purees.
Like Ultratex, like we did like the lecithin stuff and like foaming it up. We did. Guess the one thing that was like tricky, because it was very specific, was there was a dish that was I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was a bunch of different shellfish. So I think it was clams and gooey duck and tomato, and then it had like a tomatillo tomato water like gelée. Was it that one, or was it? No, it was the bouillon-based dish. That's what it was. I'm trying to remember all this. So it had some sort of like gelée over the top of it, and so we would like, somebody else would make the water, and then I had to add the gelatin to it, and then
set it and punch it out.
No, because it wasn't that. Well, that happened too one time, and that was a disaster. But it was like there was a bowl of ice, and then you would put another bowl on top, and then put the water in there with the gelatin, and then just spin it. And Chef Kinch wanted it at the like perfect texture, so that it wasn't like a solid piece of gel that you were kind of like mashing up and putting over the top. He wanted it to be like a really silky smooth gelatin.
Okay.
That you kind of like poured over the top.
All right.
And that was just really tricky because it was like it was never the right temperature. And in the middle of service, it was just like, okay, I just need to get this set enough, but not too set, and then put it in my low boy, and then take it out and like kind of smash it up. And it was just, yeah, it was tricky.
Got you.
Anyway, it was just like specific things like that. It wasn't really complicated things. It was just like very specific textures or like specific points that we needed to hit that were really hard to do during service.
And when you were getting to the end of your time there, why did you decide to leave?
Well, I was offered another job with somebody that I used to work with in Idaho that ended up falling through. So that was kind of the impetus for that happening. But it was also the point when I had started doing the podcast stuff, or at least started kind of thinking about the concept of copper and heat. And I wanted to do a little bit more of that. So once the other job thing fell through, I was like, well, maybe I'll just take this time to do a little bit more of the podcast stuff and not immediately rush back into another kitchen.
When you went into the podcast stuff, what was the first thing that you decided to learn about podcasting to get you there? Because for me, it was like, what kind of computer do I need? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I need to start with. Like, what kind of microphone do I need?
That was definitely part of it. And like, so my partner, it was actually his idea to do the podcast, because I was like writing some stuff and kind of working through some stuff that way. And he was like, well, what if we made a podcast? Because he's a big audio guy and he came from like music. And so we wanted to do something a little bit different and do more of like a narrative, journalistic style of show. And so my first thing that I wanted to learn was like, okay, how do I take these like big themes that I'm thinking about and then put that into like an audio format that is both entertaining but also educational. So it was more, I immediately dove into like editorial, like how do I learn how to like develop an interesting story and like interview properly to get the tape that I want and that kind of stuff. So that was the first thing I did. And then I had to learn all the technical crap, which listening back to the first season, I'm like, okay, I think we did a pretty good, but wow, there's some audio stuff that's bad.
Oh my God, yeah. It is like, there's some stuff that's really bad. Like, and then it sucks because when you do an interview, like there's another chef tied to it, and like now you've just let him and his whole family down. You know, and like the last thing you want to do is let somebody down like that. Yeah. But sometimes.
How did you learn how to like listen to yourself? Because I feel like that was the hardest part for me. It was just like getting over that, like, oof.
I just like, I act like I don't know myself. Like, that's Sucio. Like, it's just a character. Like, it's not me, even though it is. But, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I can be critical of that person and not have to hate on myself, which makes it easier for me to just take it as, like, constructive criticism of myself and just apply it.
Interesting.
Versus, like, just, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
And then, you know, not thinking about it past that. You know, like, well, how can I make it better? What can I do? And I just also, you know, when you like have a new dish that you're working on and you're R&Ding the dish, and then it doesn't ever get any better until you actually put it on the menu. Yeah. Like, that's how I feel like I need to just get out there. I need to just do the podcast, figure it out, play the game. Yeah. Like, when you're playing an NBA, like a basketball game, you only have one chance to win the game. You don't have like a rewind, right? Yeah. So I'm like, let me just do it and not edit shit and just go. And, you know, my dad obviously roasted me for how I talk, and I'm like, yes, Dad, I hear you. So it's all about slowing down my brain a little bit and not thinking in that chef way of, I have to make this decision now and I have to communicate it as quickly as possible so I don't waste anyone's time. Yes. You know? And so, years of that is like, you know, I've gone through like a year, 2 year of like PTSD where I'm like, go back to the same things that are bad habits. So like things that you just start doing out of necessity to cope with what's going on. And you just have to stop yourself. Yeah. And say, no. Yeah. So I'm very careful of just diving also back into a kitchen like that, because I did a dinner recently and it was like just pulled right back in. Just like went out after, got hammered, drove. And I'm like, you know, that's not the kind of person I want to be. So I'm like, let me not put myself in that situation. I don't know how to cope with it yet. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine and she was like, I don't know how to run a restaurant without exploiting my employees. And I'm like, that's a very true thing, because that's what we were taught. Yeah. Yeah. You can't do shit in 8 hours. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, there's not much that you can do. Like, what time did you get into Manresa every day? Fucking 10 a.m.
11. Yeah. Well, I got in right as they had gotten into some trouble for people getting there at like 8 or 9, not clocking in until noon.
Oh, yeah. You're in there 8 or 9, you don't clock in until noon, shift pay. Yeah. Because, like, if you don't, the work isn't going to get done. Yeah. And then you're just going to get dragged all service. Yeah. And so it was an unsaid thing that you get there the time that you need to get there. Yeah. And that was it. You know?
Unsaid shit like that.
Yeah.
Unspoken.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm torn because I'm grateful for it, because it pushed me and it got me to where I am today. But I don't know that we can continue this way. Yeah. So we need to change it. But I don't know what the answers are. Totally. To do that. So I guess this is what we have to do, is just talk through it. About it. Somebody's going to figure it out. Yeah.
And people are trying different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it before where like tipping out the kitchen. Yeah. Or, you know what sucks is that now to have a huge restaurant, in order to work within the California labor laws, you have to have a team of like 100 all at part-time. Yeah. And that doesn't build camaraderie. It doesn't build family, all those things that we love about the restaurant industry. So I wonder if we just need to have a couple of restaurants that we know are tough fucking restaurants, like maybe all 3 Michelin star restaurants. Like, you know, when you go there, shit's going to be tough. And you're going to be coming in at 8, clocking in at 12, whatever. You're going to get paid for 8 hours and you're going to work more. And I think that as a person who wanted to do that, I think I should be allowed to do that. And sometimes we get pushed into this work-life balance. But like, what is work-life balance? Because like when I'm home, my life was, you know, the one day off was just like sleeping. That's not a balance. Yeah, that's not a balance. So to me, it's like, yeah, you can give me this time off, but it doesn't mean I'm going to live a balanced life. Yeah. Because I don't know how. Yeah. You know, because you never worked 9 to 5. Yeah. So to redefine what is your life, not cooking. Yeah. Which is, it sort of needs to be for you to like get to that place. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Like, how do you train greatness in today's day? Yeah.
Well, and I think what I have been thinking about a lot lately is like, because that is exactly what I was thinking when I first went into Manresa, because I staged there 3 months, no pay. And that was like expected to work there. You had to work for free basically for 3 months. And everybody at school was like, you should not do that. Like, do not give away your work for free. And I was like, if I fucking want to, I'm going to fucking do it. Like, don't tell me what to do. And I was fine with it and I loved it. It wasn't until much later that I started kind of thinking about like, okay, I understand what they're saying. Because I think what I've been thinking about a lot lately is like, I'm white. I'm incredibly privileged in that my partner works in tech. And so I could afford to work for free for 3 months. And like, I'm just incredibly privileged in a lot of ways. And like, I was able to go work for free for 3 months and have that like kind of stepping stone into a kitchen like that, and then work my way up. And like, obviously I worked really hard, and I did work really hard to be able to stay there and have a job there that other people like they didn't make the cut for whatever reason. Right. Like, obviously I worked really hard to get there. It doesn't discredit the work that I did, that the privilege that I had, but I feel like I thought a lot more about like, okay, What about all the people that really want to come work at Manresa, but they can't afford to like get to California, live in California for 3 months, and like not get paid for 3 months?
Yeah.
And I think so. That's what I've been thinking about a lot lately. Is like,
how do we help them?
Yeah, how do we make the industry different or better?
Yeah.
Is like there's so many people who are excluded before they even start because of like these expectations that you work for free or whatever, you know?
Well, hopefully I think with a thing like a podcast, like we can then monetarily fund these things. And like, you know, if you want to come out here and work at, like say you've been working at some restaurant on the East Coast for 2 years and you really want to work at Manresa, and just it sucks that you don't have the means to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, when I came out here to California, I came with nothing.
Yeah.
Like literally like a bag and like $150. That's all I had. And I stayed at my friend's house. Luckily, I had a friend who lived over here, you know. But there's not many, like you don't just have friends in California if you've never been out here or know anybody who works, you know what I mean, in restaurants and shit. So it's like, how do we afford them those opportunities?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
I think culinary school definitely doesn't do a good job of placing people. Like Johnson & Wales never once has helped me get a job. Like I've never used my college degree to get a job. Yeah. You know, and that's horrible. Yeah. Because of all like the debt that they put you in, you know? Yeah. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Do you feel like even if they didn't help you get a job, do you feel like it was still worth it and that you learned something that you use, or like
I think it wasn't the knowledge, it was the networking. Yeah. It was because of going to that college that I know Tyler, that I was able to move to California and stay on this couch. That I know Maddie from Harbor House. Yeah. That I know, you know, a bunch of people who have worked at 3 Michelin star restaurants that are like worked with the best of the best that are now all over the world doing crazy shit because I went to that school. So that is what I'm grateful for. Yeah. And I also don't like to regret my life. Like it was a 4-year vacation. Like we just fucked off, partied and like whatever, you know, and I'll pay for it probably for the rest of my life, but whatever, bro, it's all good. It's how it goes. You know, it's how it goes. And, you know, I know that we are very young and infant in the podcast world. Yeah. But I also feel like, and tell me if you feel the same way. Your podcast is always constantly getting compared to other people who have like podcasts, but all they've done their whole life has been an entertainer. Like people are like, oh, you know what Joe Rogan does? And it's like, I don't give a fuck what Joe Rogan does. Fucking Joe Rogan. Yeah. Like I don't have his money going behind the podcast. I don't have a production crew, a nurse to do COVID tests at the front door. Like, come on, man. Yeah. Also, he's been a stand-up comedian. He's been publicly speaking for way too long. Like, us, we're just like, shut up, look down, you know, work hard. So it's like, all I learned.
We don't know how to talk to people. We have in the kitchen.
That's it. Exactly. When you started, what was the narrative? It was, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody. That's why I work in the kitchen. Yeah. And then it started shifting. Yeah. And then everybody's like, well, you know, you have to open kitchens and you have to talk to people now. Yeah. You're like, wait, what? Huh? And then you do it. And then you're like, wait, I like this talking thing. And then now you do a podcast. That's what the new trajectory of chef is. Yeah.
Well, this is something I want to ask you about. Because I feel like you, I wonder about this. Because, Dan, a mutual friend, so we went on this trip to France with Manresa for their 15th anniversary. And there was a PR person there. And I think everybody felt really uncomfortable with, like, the fact that we were on this trip and it was very much like a PR thing, right? There was a whole camera crew that was creating this documentary. And, like, a lot of us were like, what do we do here? Like, I don't know how to like act around cameras, and like I don't want to talk to these people who are asking me questions. Yeah. What if I say something wrong? And it was just like a lot of that. And I think the reason we were in the kitchen, like we don't want to like have this personal, or maybe a persona, like whatever. Like we don't want to get into PR or marketing. We don't want to be the face or whatever. But more and more, I think that's what people have to do. Like everybody
You
has
have to
their
do
personal brand on
You have
social
to do it.
media and like doing all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really hard to figure that out.
I mean, that's why not everybody is doing it.
Yeah.
You know, but I was talking earlier about this at Octavia. It was like if everyone stops and follows their dreams, like everyone all of a sudden wants to become a YouTuber. Like, who is going to work as a garbage man or woman?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who is going to actually be a plumber and an electrician and the shit that we call and like take for granted that's just there for us?
Yeah.
I feel like we're losing those jobs. Like no one, and it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of people that end up doing it because they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So I just wonder what this world is going to look like when we lose trades. Because we won't need to do them anymore.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about is like with cooking, because I think it was for a long time so much more like a craft or a trade. And more I think people are getting kind of pushed into this celebrity chef thing, you know, like they have to have a personal brand, and eventually if you're going to open your own place, you can't just like open a place and do your thing.
No, you can't. You have to have marketing. You have to, people need to know about it. Soft opening, fucking, yeah. So
like, do you think that like the trade or the craft of cooking is going to change because of it?
I think so, yeah. But I don't think that any amount of marketing or I don't know, it's hard to tell because let's talk about this, the truffle sauce, truth sauce, TRUF, you know that? That's not like, those aren't chefs. They just put really good marketing behind a mediocre product. And because most people don't know any better, they're just like, oh, this is amazing truffle hot sauce, you know? So now you have an entire generation of food professionals that make food at home and make way more money than the true talents that you and I both know that aren't even in the game anymore because there's no money. There's no money. They've been taken out and they're doing this for like 12, 13 years, and then you have to stop and like sell real estate because you couldn't afford to stay in it. Yeah. And it's not wrong because those people are just like doing what they can and have the means to, you know. But yeah, we are going to see a definite change, especially because most of the people that we grew up around, the CDCs that are personal chefs. Yeah. I'm not a CDC at a restaurant. I'm a personal chef. There's personal chefs that should be at restaurants teaching people shit. And we can all just go back 15 years. It was that one guy that one time that told them they couldn't cook or they can't season shit or yelled at them so bad that they're like, well, why the fuck am I dealing with this? And now we're not, now they're not here. Yeah. And then they're like, well, we're having trouble staffing shit. And it's like, it's your fault.
Yeah, because you guys are fucked up.
Yeah, it's your fault. 15 years ago, you fucking shit on that person so hard they never came back. Yeah. Like Ben Spiegel. Like, a lot of people talk about him. He used to be a water to table rep. Oh, okay. And when I met him, like, at a 3-star, you always look at a guy who used to be a chef and is now a rep as like what are you doing? You're a rep now, you know what I mean? Especially when you're in it. Yeah. And then when you step out of it, you're like, the guy's feeding his family. He's being a fucking stand-up human being is what he's doing. Yeah. But it's a culture of hatred. You like learn to hate on shit as much as you learn to cook and all that. The culture is like, fuck this other restaurant. And somebody was telling me about it today. They were like, yeah, when we were at Per Se, it was like, fuck John George. And then you get out of it, you're like, wait, why? Why fuck John George? There's no reason. It's just because they put it in your head that was the right thing to think. So much more than just the ability to cook, they're teaching you how to think. And that's why we are where we're at now, because it's a sports game. Nobody's supposed to take anything personal, but then it's our passion, so we do take it personal. Yeah. It's the biggest conundrum fucking career. Yes. Yeah, your whole identity. Yeah. Exactly. I don't know if you ever been like injured and out of the game for a little bit while you were cooking.
not like out of the game very long. I was like sick there was
sick for a day probably, and you're like,
I was devastated. I'm like, oh my God, I'm letting the whole team down.
Yeah, I'll never be able to cook again.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought when I got hit by a car and I wasn't like working for a month. Yeah. I was like, I am garbage.
Yeah.
Like I don't, like literally if I lose cooking, I don't know how to do anything else. Yeah. And that's part of the reason you stay, because you're like, well, what else am I going to do? You know what I mean? I've already made it this far. So you just allow yourself to be kind of taken in by the shittiness of it, just to like try to get to the other side. But you know, that is what it is.
Yeah, and clearly you can do other things. So
that's what I mean. Yeah, you can do. We can have a podcast.
You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Doesn't matter anymore. You know, that's what I thought about it. I'm like, I keep looking for these personal chef jobs because I think that I should be getting paid a certain amount, and that's the only reason that I want that job. And then I'm like, I never did this for the money, ever. Yeah. So I think what I'm gonna do is like go back to like cooking, just being a cook somewhere. Okay. It's like, I don't have anything to prove. Yeah. I just want to be in a kitchen doing some shit and getting the fuck out. Yeah. And I think that's what I've landed on. Nice. Like, I don't need to open anything to prove to myself that I'm good enough. Right. You know, and God bless all the people who do open restaurants. Like, it is a dangerous endeavor with your credit, with your brain, like your body, employees,
relationships,
exactly,
all the things.
Yeah, and not to mention all the waste. Like, when are we going to stop using fucking pint containers? Is anybody coming up with a solution? Because the bamboo doesn't work. Nobody wants to use that.
No, or like the plastic wrap. The,
exactly.
Fake plastic wraps, like the beeswax thing. Anyway, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they need to. It's like I guess we'll get there, because like vegan shit 10 years ago sucked.
True.
Now it's good. Yeah. So maybe like as time goes on, they'll come up with a solution. Yeah. Some 3-year-old out there is going to figure out how to destroy that plastic cloud in the ocean, and then we'll get there. Yeah. I hope I'm alive long enough to see that day. Yeah.
Me too, but.
So what's the plan with the podcast? Where are you looking to take this thing? Looking to grow it,
$1 million question.
Blow it up?
Quite literally, if only. Yeah. I mean,
are you part of a podcast network?
Yes. Yeah. So we're actually part of, it's called One Star.
One Star. Yeah.
So they're restaurant industry focused, by and for, which is cool. It's neat to be like a part of a group of people.
How did you get to that? And what does it do for the podcast being in that group?
I mean, it's mostly like just bouncing off of each other. So being able to like promote within the group. And then there's a little bit of like financial stuff in that they kind of help with the ad stuff, because we are hosted through Art19. They're the like podcast distribution, and they do some of the dynamic ad things. So they like drop in ads in some of our episodes, and we get to like choose where those ads go and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of the benefit of it. But yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do next. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. We're gonna release season 4 in September, so in like a month-ish, start doing season 4. Just trying to figure out what to do next, because like I have to make a little bit of money.
I get you. Yeah, this shit is like, when you're doing that, you're like,
some costs.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's definitely an expensive endeavor nowadays, because I think, people have caught on to this is a thing that people want to do. Yeah. And when that happens, they make everything expensive to do it. But here we are.
Yeah, and like because our episodes are just so like labor intensive. Like I want to be able to pay the people that work on it, like not like shitload of money, but at least like pay them well for the work that they do.
That's good, because it sounds like you have people that believe in it.
I think so. Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, and like we have a good team, because it was just me and my partner at first, and then for season 2 we brought on somebody else.
How did you find that person?
Well, she's actually like one of my oldest friends. And she's not from the restaurant industry, but she loves podcasts and did like broadcast radio for school. Okay. So she had that background. And so for the first season, I had just like every episode before it went out, I would send it to her and she would give me feedback. And she just gave like such good feedback and it was so great. And so once we were finally in the position to be like, so you want to come like actually work for us now?
Yeah.
And so for season 3, that's when she officially came on as like a part-time producer, editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, which has been so good.
A godsend. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, and we've been friends since we were like 4. And I mean, we worked on a thing in high school together, but this is really the first time we've worked together since we were children, which has been, it's actually really nice. I know some people are like, never go into business with your friends, never work with friends or partners, but I have done both, and
this is a different game though when it comes to podcasting. Like there's no immediate deadline.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to see results out of anything, like view-wise or whatever. So it's almost like you're patient. And you're just like, oh.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's the mentality. It's just keep doing it. Yeah. And you'll get there. Because I've seen a lot of podcasts, they start, and then they just, 1 year in, they're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you enjoy any other food podcasts?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of which ones are some of my favorites.
Have you heard Kimchi Kids?
Kimchi Kids?
In Chicago?
Wait, can I pull up my phone?
Yeah, for sure. Kimchi Kids. Kimchi Kids in Chicago.
I should do that.
Forget the dudes' names, but they got, it's okay, the camera's off you can go ahead. It seems like they got a pretty good production because their reels are on fire.
Oh,
I like their reels. They do the thing where they do the multiple camera, picture-in-picture thing. Cool. What else? Spoon Mob. Spoon Mob is one.
All these ones that I've never heard of.
Well, I'm always looking at the competition, chef.
Smart.
Smart. I gotta always keep updated on what's going on in the world of our podcast. Because for the longest time, I thought that I had the only podcast like this. And then you start looking around, and you're like, oh, no. There's like a whole movement of these type of podcasts coming on.
Very much
and
so.
all very different. I haven't seen one that are the same. I had a chef on that they had on, Angel Barreto, and completely different episodes. And both very cool conversations, but just, him at a different time. Yeah. So it's like we can all eat. It's not like before where you're like, everyone's at the 8:00 spot, so we got to be super competitive and like knocking people down. But I feel like with this podcast game, we can all have a nice gradual growth. Yeah. With no super like hatred. And,
that competitive. I think. Well, this is a whole other thing, but being competitive doesn't really get anybody anywhere. I think, rising tide raises all boats kind of thing. Like if we can collaborate and support each other, it's gonna be better for everybody. Anyway, Racist Sandwich was one of my favorites, and I'm bummed that they are no longer making a show, but it was Solejo before they started working at the Chronicle.
Oh, really?
And then they left, and a couple other people took over, and then I think they stopped doing it. But I like Soleil's new podcast, Extra Spicy. That's
she's got a new one.
Yeah, Soleil uses like they them pronouns, but
Got you.
They Extra Spicy. That's the food one. I haven't been listening. I'm gonna feel really guilty for saying this. I haven't been listening to a lot of food ones lately. I've been listening to some other ones.
It's all good.
Yeah, but like one that I really like is called Other Men Need Help.
Other Men Need Help.
Other Men Need Help.
Okay.
And so it's a buddy of ours. His name's Mark Pagan. He's Puerto Rican.
Oh, no way.
Well. So he talks a lot about that, like his Puerto Rican upbringing and stuff. But he just like talks about, he does like the personal essay style show and like interviews and stuff just like really, really well, really beautifully. I love that show. I'm trying to remember the name of the other one that I was listening to that he helps produce. But
there's a lot of cats out here doing podcasts.
There's so many different kinds of podcasts.
I mean, now I see a lot. I'm sure it comes up on your Instagram feed. It's like how to grow your podcast. All these advertisements. Have you ever used any media people, marketing, anything like that?
No, well, that's not entirely true. We did, they call it podcast therapy, is what they call it.
What is that?
So it's this company called Tink. They're like a podcast marketing and PR agency. And so they do like consulting. And so if you sign up for their podcast therapy, it's just different consulting meetings, but that's how they call it.
Okay.
So it's like you can sign up for an hour or two, and you kind of talk to them about your goals, and then they give you some recommendations of how you can grow your audience or whatever.
Right. Did it work?
TBD. We're in the middle of it. We did this like a couple months ago.
Uh-huh.
And as kind of like the lead up to season 4. So we'll kind of see as we go through season 4 and do some of the things that they recommended, how that works. But
where can people find the podcast?
all of the platforms.
All of them.
All of the platforms.
What's the main one?
Most people listen either through Apple or Spotify, from what we've been able to
Same
see.
here. Google Podcast gets no love.
No, it really doesn't. Pocket Cast is the other random one that a lot of people listen on.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about that one. I really hate Apple Podcasts, but I use it. But I curse it every time I open the stupid app.
I use Spotify.
I probably should.
Yeah.
I should. My partner uses Pocket Cast, and he swears by it. But
Podchaser is also one. I drop my stuff on Anchor.
you do, and it's just purely on Anchor.
No,
It does the.
it's on Anchor. It distributes it everywhere.
Got it.
But mainly Spotify. You can do straight to video
I saw that.
podcasts
That's
on
how I was
Spotify.
listening to
Yeah,
it, was on Spotify.
that's how I do it. Because I don't know of any other platform that you can upload video to that will also go to Spotify at the same time.
Interesting.
And then I have the YouTube page, but I'm not very good at that because there's a bunch of shit you don't even think about. Like when you take the classes, they're all like, make sure your tags are aligned with your this, and I'm like, oh,
The what and the what?
yeah. I'm like, I need a fucking 15-year-old kid who has the energy
Yes.
to read through all of it and get it aligned.
I would really love to be able to pay somebody to do social media.
Well, you can go to universities around here and find people, give them internships.
That would be sweet. Because I have lots of ideas, but then I'm like, I don't have the energy to make a reel or whatever. I'm like, I really want to do this, but I'm doing all this other crap.
Yeah, that's the hardest part about this.
Yeah.
It's like figuring out, because when you're a chef, you know the end goal
Yeah.
before you start, so you know where you're going. And with the podcast, you're like, I don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
I know we're going somewhere. Like we got enough gas and water. But,
maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know how big the tank is, so
Yeah.
I don't know that we have enough,
Yeah, 100%.
Crazy. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Yeah,
for
in the
reaching
studio out here in Oakland.
out. I know, I love it.
Yeah.
It's sick.
What are you doing when you're not podcasting out there in Portland?
Eating.
Eating.
Eating. Duh.
What are your favorite places in Portland?
Magna is one of my favorites.
Con just opened up.
Yes, Con. I haven't been there yet, but trying to go there.
Shout out to
sometime.
Gregory Gourdet.
Yeah. If you don't know, do you know Carlo LaMagna? He's awesome. He's a buddy of mine. Carlo. He owns Magna.
Filipino?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's
Was
been
he on
like,
Top Chef?
I don't think so. Was he? No. But he was nominated for a Beard this year and Food and Wine. I keep forgetting the name of the different awards, but Food
Best
and
New
Wine,
Chef?
Best New Chef. So he was one of those this year too. So he's like really blown up lately, and I mean it's really good. So if you ever come up to Portland, we should go there.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So I love his place. Where else have we been eating? Padi and Phuket Cafe and Langban are 3 Thai restaurants up there, all owned by the same chef, Chef Earl, and they are so good. And then just like our hole-in-the-wall favorite place.
Earl Ninsom?
Yes.
Oh, okay, got you. I worked with him. We did a virtual potluck, because
nice.
he couldn't it was COVID time.
Yeah.
So he basically gave us a recipe and we cooked it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yep. That's him.
Yeah. Good dude.
He's awesome.
Dope. You thinking you're gonna stay in Portland forever? Or were you trying to lay your head?
I don't know. I really like Portland. I really like.
You going back to the Midwest at all?
Well, I mean, we go back and visit our family every once in a while because it's just Idaho, just one state over, so we can at least drive now, which we couldn't do from here, which is very nice. But we do miss the Bay. Being back is like, because we haven't come back since we left in the middle of the pandemic when everything was just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. It's still like that.
Yeah, but at least there's like people out and about again.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we left, it was just like ghost town everywhere.
Ghost town, yeah.
So coming back, it's like, oh. Okay, but then we're like, oh yeah, remember how expensive it is? Ooh.
It's all good.
But
we're making that podcast money sometime soon. Here.
Someday soon, hopefully.
Move to California. Give it all to the government. You know, it's all good. All right.
Cool.
Fucking
Thanks,
Sucio
Jeff.
Talk podcast. Peace. See it.
Nice.